Hey, what's going on? It's Inventor here, with my summary of the Campfire chat for Diablo 4 Season 9. I understand some of you might want a TLDR for this 2-hour stream, so I shortened it all down into some notes that I'll cover in under a few minutes. First off, the Season 9 launch is officially stated to be July 1st, 10 a.m., so get ready for that. This is the little infographic that they provided, and it basically covers a lot of the adjustments that they're making with regards to Nightmare Dungeons, Herodric Powers and Jewels, and the list goes on. So, to go a little bit more in depth, they mentioned that this is going to be a season that's centered around changes on Nightmare Dungeons. Of course, there's going to be a seasonal quest line, and it has to do with the character that you see here. That's Astaroth, that's from the campaign. And then there's also Donan, the NPC that followed you around the campaign, too. You would start at a place called Eldheim Keep. I don't think that they specified exactly where Eldheim Keep is during the campfire chat, but that's where the seasonal questline will start, and that's where you may have to do other seasonal related stuff. I'm not entirely sure. And on top of Nightmare Dungeons, they also have now Nightmare Escalations and Herodric Strongrooms. So if we take a look here, you can see that this is kind of what a Herodric Strongroom looks like. You'd
Those pillars we
have to
mentioned
go
before,
around and pick up these
the
pillars.
shrine.
I'm just gonna mute this real quick. And you kill a bunch of monsters and you hit the pillars. You get points, I guess, for it. And then at the end, you fight a boss. And then when you finish killing this boss, you get this Grand Herodric Cache. And from the Herodric Cache and the boss kill, you get a bunch of materials. And you also get Obdicite. Yeah, I'll show this. Obdicite, and you also get the seasonal currency. Those are the Herodric files. So that's a Herodric Strongroom. And then so these Herodric Strongrooms can sometimes show up in any Nightmare Dungeon, and some Nightmare Dungeon sigils will just have a guaranteed Herodric Strongroom. There's also Nightmare Escalations, which are basically a few Nightmare Dungeons stacked on top of each other, and they get progressively tougher and tougher. And the Nightmare Dungeons themselves now have new affixes. They have things like Forgotten Wisdom for more XP. They have like Roderick Gems. They have Treasure Goblins, and the list goes on and on. So that's for Nightmare Dungeons. Next up, they talked about the Herodric Spellcraft. So they wrote it here as you have a couple of spell components, catalysts, infusions, and arcana. You build your own spell, and the spell has its own utility. So yeah, that is basically what I have written here on the notes. You would get you would actually get the jewels though. There's like not just the Herodric powers, but then there's jewels too, right? These jewels are socketable in your jewelry, and the jewelry or the Herodric jewels are obtained from Herodric tomes, or at least the recipes are that you get from the strong rooms that I was just talking about. And then you craft the jewels at the Herodric lapidary. I'm not sure where that is. I don't think they mentioned that either, but that's where you'd go to make your jewels. Another pretty interesting change that they made was that on the PTR, sharpening gizmo was one of the Herodric powers. It gave damage over or chance for damage over time to like uh, blow up instantly and do all its damage right away. Now they've reworked it to do physical damage. I'm not going to get into the specifics. I don't think it particularly matters for most of you. But yeah, unfortunately, that's one fun thing that they've since taken out of the PTR. So yeah, they talked about that this is what the UI looks like for the Herodric Spellcraft. And then, yeah, they showed that this is what some of the Herodric jewels look like too. And then they moved on to talk about the PTR learnings. And there were quite a few, actually. And in fact, I can't cover all of them on this video. I think that the full list would be actually in the patch notes. But um, there were a number of changes made to Herodric powers and jewels. So the reason why they changed sharpening Gizmo over to siphoning Gizmo now is to, in their words, maintain the competitive integrity of the game. Basically, they felt that it was just, I guess, not really possible to like balance it properly. I think is the gist of what I got out of it. The reasoning doesn't really matter. All you need to know is that yes, sharpening gizmo is no longer available as fun as it was on the PTR. Speaking of other things that weren't so fun, or that were a lot of fun on the PTR that aren't available, propulsion teleport change was made. Previously, you were able to infinitely teleport with propulsion. This is no longer possible since even though, well, yeah, they said that it was too transformative and that probably every build or almost every build would probably end up using propulsion teleport. Whether you agree with that, it's totally up to you. But that don't shoot the messenger. That's what they said. I think that there's still one other power, floaty bauble, that allows you to blink, and uh, that's might not be as good as propulsion, but it is still one way to get access to a sort of teleport-like skill. There's also a new jewel that they introduced called the Will Breaker for physical builds. I don't know if they mentioned it in here at all. I don't think that they did, or I don't think they have a slide for it specifically. So the new Jewel Will Breaker is meant for physical type builds because they said that, oh yeah, physical builds don't get much love this season, so they wanted to change that up. There's also a Jewel Cheat Death, or for cheating death, that's not available for hardcore. I don't remember the name of it, but um, here, let me look it up real quick. Yeah, it's called Liminal Echo. So Liminal Echo is not available for hardcore, so you can't just, well, cheat death whenever you're in danger. They also made some change, or the developers made some changes to the Herodric strong rooms. It was too easy on the PTR, so yeah, I mean they were just three nightmare dungeons stacked on top of each other. So I mean they weren't particularly exciting. So they've scaled the difficulty and the loot by several pit tiers on every floor that you advance. Now the really fun stuff. I'm sure you folks are curious about this, balance changes. So yeah, the as you know, this season, or as you might know, in this season, they did basic skill buffs. Um, do they have it written here? No, that's for class balance. Okay, here. Yeah, so yeah, they had basic skill buffs, overpower nerfs, and key passives. So as you might be very well aware, basic skills are less used than a lot of other skills. Overpower nerfs, or sorry, they actually also made a change to Pain Gorger, so now they can also inherit Crit Strike and Overpower as well, because previously they were otherwise kind of useless, for a lack of better way of putting it. They also nerfed Overpower into the ground. I mean, I don't have any other way. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They removed the ability to, like, if you have more life, you get more damage. They just made it like a flat 50% increase in damage, kind of like Crit Strike. Um, yeah. Again, I could do a completely separate video on this topic alone. I think it's kind of a huge shame that they did that. But yeah, just know that Overpower has taken a pretty massive nerf. It doesn't scale off life like it used to anymore. And then, of course, there's key passive changes. So now they add capped scaling, but I don't think that's changed at all since the PTR. So now if I go through the individual class changes, okay, so they wanted to kind of change it up for Barbarian because Pet Quake was a little, and Dust Devils were like too strong last season. Uh, yeah, so they are trying to rebalance a lot of the existing skills, especially basic skills. And then there's a new unique Who's the Mountain God for anyone trying to play these basic sort of skills here, as you can see. Um, then Necro, let's see here. Yeah, so they said that they wanted to nerf Soul Rift and Bloodwave. Actually, wait, sorry. It was actually Druid first. So they talked about Barbarian, then they talked about Druid. So Druid, they said, was the worst performer versus other classes in terms of how many people were playing it. Um, and so they actually reworked some of the skills, in particular Pulverize. They said variety of buffs, and they put Pulverize specifically. Pulverize got its base damage buffed. Variety of buffs, well, they did tweak some of the other skills, especially basic skills, but nothing too insane there, except for this new unique Rotting Lightbringer, which creates poison puddles. And in the PTR, it wasn't performing as well as they were hoping for it to, so it's since then gotten buffed quite a bit. So now the new unique looks something more like this. It can do up to 600% of its normal damage as poisoning over 7 seconds. Previously on the PTR was only like 400%. So that's for Druid. Then if we move on to Necro, so they said that Soul Rift had too many effects. Bloodwave was also too strong, but that was mostly due to Overpower, and Overpower did get neutered. So probably since it's been neutered, Bloodwave, well, they haven't really done anything else really to Bloodwave. Uh, yeah, they felt like a lot of the power came from Overpower. They did do some buffs to Golem, Bone, and Shadow, and then there's of course the new unique gloves, Hand of Naz, which turns your skeletons into archmages for a rather unique playstyle. So then moving on to Rogue. So yeah, they hit Death Trap and Shadow Clone really hard with nerfs, of course. I mean, Death Trap's been dominant the last several seasons. So yeah, they had to do something about that. And then they reworked the Victimize. I think it's a key passive, and then they also added the new Flurry unique, a Death Mask of Nerman. I'm not even gonna try to say that. So Death Mask. They actually did buff it from the PTR. In the PTR, the like top end unique roll was 50%. Now it's 70%. So it's nice for anyone wanting to play Flurry. Um, but I think the class as a whole has not received a lot of love in like this season, both on the PTR and now that the season's going live, which is a bit unfortunate. But again, that can be a completely separate video topic by itself. Sorcerer, Lightning Spear, Lightning Spear, of course, has been the go-to for the last few seasons, similar as like with Death Trap Rogue. So the way they've reworked it is that they've hit Splintering Energy aspect really hard for Lightning Spear, so you can't just infinitely scale it. But to uh, kind of make Lightning Spear feel at least a little bit better, they did increase the base damage. Because yeah, with Splintering Energy, it was like too strong, and without it, it was completely like it was not very good. So Lightning Spear base damage got increased. Icefall node and Firestarter aspects got buffed, so more damage I think on both. And then of course there's the Sorcerer Hydra build is slated to be the strongest build in this upcoming season. So yeah, part of the reason for that is there's this new unique Ophidian Iris, which converts your Hydras into one big Hydra. So yeah, that's what's coming for next season, and they changed crit strike chance over to attack speed now on Ophidian Iris. So that's that. Then for Spiritborn, yes. So yeah, Razor Wings. It's no secret that Razor Wings got pretty big. Um, yeah, Razor Wings is like one of the less popular builds because of how little damage it does. So yeah, that's getting a buffed. Hunter changes on the PTR got reverted, so now there's a chance that you can just fully reset it if you have like these big packs of monsters. But the damage to injured bonus is going from 100 to only 50%. Now is what they've changed. Other ultimates. Oh, also they were saying that originally part of the reason why they were trying to tweak Hunter to begin with is because it was basically used in 90% of builds, but the changes made in the PTR were highly unpopular, so they've kind of reverted it since then. And then this leads to the next thing that they discussed, that other ultimates got buffed to try to compensate. So Devour does more damage, and Seeker now gives you all crits, and I think what was the last one? The Protector also gives you more damage if you stand in the circle. And then of course there's the new unique. The I'm not even gonna try to say it. The Thorns Pants is what I'll call it. And then these Thorns Pants used to be 300% on the PTR. Now they've been scaled back down to 150%. So that is a pretty big nerf. Okay, that's basically it for the balance changes. And then of course seasonal activity variety. I'll try to get through this part really quickly. Um, so elites and bosses granting seasonal reputation. So, uh, right. This here. So what they realized in this season is that it's better to kind of open up the floor for people to have options on how they get their seasonal reputation and seasonal currency. So now, like this upcoming season, the seasonal rep I imagine will come from running Nightmare Dungeons, but you'll also uh, be able to progress your seasonal reputation through killing elites and bosses. Similar situation goes with seasonal currency. There's going to be the Herodric files for this season, and now you will get the Herodric files and be able to buff your classes as long as you kill these tormented bosses too, and open up their lair hordes. So they want to do more of that going forward, so that people don't feel pigeonholed into having to just do one activity to complete those. Um, well, to get those that seasonal content, right? And then here we have system updates. So that's point six here. System updates, Nightmare Dungeons, and Escalation Nightmares. So again, they were just reiterating what they were talking about earlier. But basically, Nightmare Sigils have more modifiers than they used to, and in comparison to on the PTR, the Escalation Sigils get increasingly more difficult. To like it scales up each floor you go into. So you can actually get these Nightmare uh dungeons that are tougher than T4, and they can also have special affixes that cannot appear in regular Nightmare dungeons too. Higher Torment now, if I can just find. Yeah, they went over a couple other miscellaneous changes. So, um, as you go up in Torment difficulty, now you get more Ancestral drops, and the Ancestral items that drop have more GAs, generally speaking. They also talked about changes to runes. So if you've played the game last season, you know legendary runes are very difficult to come by for a lot of people. So now they're making it so that it's more likely to drop for like when you run like the Undercity and layer bosses. So yeah, and then of course there's improvements to Whisper caches, Jewelry caches, Infernal hordes, uh, gem drop quantity, and Scrolls of Escape for hardcore specifically. So that's the gist of what they have for system updates. And then they talked about what content uh is going to be permanent and what isn't. I feel like this should be pretty obvious, but not everyone would know. So here we go. All the Nightmare Dungeon updates that they've added, including the Nightmare Sigils and the escalations, are permanent. The new uniques are permanent. The Herodric, like the seasonal quest line, along with the Herodric Spellcraft, Jewels, and Reputation, are not permanent. So I think that sort of covers it for when it comes to the Nightmare Dungeon updates, or the what they're keeping as permanent for the season. And then of course there's a they mentioned that there is a pet. If I can just find it, Dante the dog. There it is. Okay, yeah. So yeah, they have Dante the dog. You can get this as part of the reputation caches, or not the reputation cache, season journey. So the last thing that I'm going to mention is going to be the Q&A. There were a couple good questions that were asked. So in this Q&A, there were maybe like what, almost a dozen questions that were asked. So somebody asked if the powers are shared like account wide or what. And the response was that powers are shared between all softcore or all hardcore characters on the same account. Second question that people asked, devs are or whether or not the devs are looking at alternatives to immune phases, and the response from the commentators was that yes, they are. Um, Third question: does strong room completion time count against Nightmare Dungeon? They didn't really seem to give a response on this. Fourth question: can players get Obdicite out of escalation sigils? And the answer is yes, and like I guess the strong rooms too, of course. Then somebody asked about whether or not a higher torment means more greater affix drops and affixes. That was already covered. Yes, it is. Can power systems be carried over from season to season? And the devs basically said that they're looking at ways to incorporate best performance in future seasons. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that they have no plans to do so at this time. It sounds like an actual like, oh, we can have the witch powers and the Herodric powers and all the other power systems. No, I think that's probably, if I were to guess, it's just way too much to balance all at once among other problems too. But yeah, then others asked if escalating sigils are craftable or droppable. The commentators weren't really sure, but they did say that strong rooms are where you would find the escalation sigils, and that you can also get these pre-torment escalation sigils from the reputation track. And another question was who comes up with the names for some of these uniques, understandably, and that they're actually handled by narrative and quest designers, is what the response was. The next question was any plans to add affixes for other layer bosses, because when you're doing the escalation sigil, you can get affixes to change up the fight for Astaroth. Um, but of course, they said that no, they don't have any such, or they said that there might be something that they look into in the future. And then last question I believe they answered is whether or not there's any plans for more uniques to change the that change the class altogether. And the commentators did say that devs are already releasing uniques every season, and this actually does track because yeah, this season there's like the Hand of Naz for Necro, and there's Poison Puddles for Druid, and so on. So yeah, that actually does add up. Okay, I think this pretty much covers it for the campfire chat. If you enjoyed this video, a like, comment, or a subscribe is always appreciated. I hope you're all as excited for the new season as I am, but otherwise, that's all for me. Thanks for watching, and venture out.